Hi, my name is Christina Valdez, and I am Artistic Director and owner of Crescendo Conservatory, and I am the choreographer of Black Swan the Ballet, music by BTS. This video is going to be about the artistry of BTS and how it inspired me to choreograph the ballet, and it also is going to be about my choreographic process. First, I'm going to talk about when I first started to know about BTS. My sister was first a huge fan. I'm a huge fan now, but my sister was first a huge fan. And so my sister sent me in January of 2020 the link to the music video On. My youngest child is in marching band, and she said, have her watch this, she is going to love it. And she was absolutely right. We love the music video. I love the group formations. It was huge. The brass, all of it, it just worked so well together. But when I watched BTS dance, I was amazed at the fact that they could keep up both singing and dancing at the same time. As a dancer, I was amazed at their endurance. How were they able to do this? And the performance level was so high. It was so beautiful. So I was hooked. I started watching music videos, and then I saw the art film for Black Swan. And the very first moment I saw the quote by Martha Graham, I was compelled to watch more. That quote by Martha Graham, "A dancer dies twice, and the first death is more painful," has always resonated with me as a dancer ever since I was very young. To die your first death and to lose the thing that brings you passion has always been in the back of my mind as I've gotten older and I've continued in the performing arts. So I watched Black Swan, the music video, and the orchestration was absolutely stunning. And the contemporary choreography was absolutely stunning, and the message was beautiful. Soon after that, BTS came out with their own music video with them dancing and them performing, and it was just on the next level. The theater in which they performed had the visuals that was so gorgeous, but BTS's own both rapping and singing and choreography and dancing, all of it just worked together on a level of artistry that I had never seen before. Their lyrics were poignant and haunting. The visuals were amazing. The choreography was amazing. The way that they played with the shadows and what they were saying with the shadows on the ceiling behind them, they were saying so many different things all at the same time, and I thought it was absolutely beautiful. And I was a fan. I was a brand new fan to BTS, and I just started watching more and more, and I thought, oh my goodness, I understand that BTS has a big fan base called the ARMY. And I thought, oh, I can't wait to see what the ARMY does with Black Swan. It's going to be amazing. How many people are going to choreograph to Black Swan? And as a ballet dancer, I was so excited that it was inspired by Swan Lake. And I thought, oh, I can't wait to see all the different ballets that are going to be choreographed to BTS's Black Swan. And that was in February. And then we had March. In March of 2020, the global pandemic became prevalent throughout the whole world. And for us here at Crescendo Conservatory, everything came to a grinding halt. We canceled performances, we canceled classes, we were at a stay-at-home order. We also were in the middle of changing locations. For years we had saved up money to be able to afford to change locations, and things were about to get better. And instead things got much worse, as it did for everyone throughout the world due to the global pandemic. And I had to make a decision. Do I continue to keep my small business open, my performing arts small business open in the middle of a global pandemic, or do I just give up? Do I just close? And so that's when the message from Black Swan became more important to me. Do I decide to die my first death? Do I decide to quit doing what gives me passion? Do I give in to the shadows, and do I just quit? And so I really thought about Black Swan and that message quite a bit during the summer. And while I tried to remain mentally healthy, I would watch BTS concerts, and I would listen to the lyrics of their songs, and I watched In the Soup. It just made me feel better. So thank you for In the Soup. That was amazing. Then I started watching Run BTS, and like a lot of us, we started to turn inward during the pandemic when we were in stay-at-home order, and we just started to really watch what was out there on the internet. In a way, it was a good thing, because I think that's why for me, Black Swan almost became more important. The message became widespread throughout everyone during the pandemic, and more people started talking about Black Swan. We made the decision, with the support of my family and the support of my dancers here, to move forward. We're going to make that brave decision and see if we can keep the business open. I immediately jumped into choreographing the virtual Nutcracker. And as soon as Nutcracker was over in December, I kept on thinking, I want to choreograph to BTS's Black Swan. I want to choreograph to BTS's Black Swan. And Nelson Mandela's quote stayed in my head too, that it always seems impossible until it's done. And I thought, it seems so impossible. How can I choreograph to BTS's Black Swan in the middle of a global pandemic? I have 47 dancers ages 10 to 20 in my performing company. 47 dancers in the middle of a global pandemic. That's crazy. But it seems impossible until it's done, and so I decided to do it. We started to scout locations. I wanted locations based off of both of the music videos, off of the art film and off of the BTS official music video. So I was very fortunate to find 2 locations, one in the West Bottoms, which is kind of an industrial warehouse district, which I thought was reflective of the art film. And then we have our iconic Union Station, which is actually a functioning train station here in Kansas City, which had the visuals that was reflective of the beautiful music theater that BTS filmed their video in. We have the beautiful ceilings and the arches, and it was absolutely stunning. And I thought, well, it's probably going to be impossible to get both locations, but I'm going to try, and I'm going to ask and see if I can get permission. One of the other reasons that I decided to choreograph to BTS's Black Swan is I saw the December MMA performance that BTS did. And I was online and I saw quite a few people talking on Twitter about how BTS's Black Swan inspired them to take a second look at Swan Lake, or take a first look at Swan Lake. So people were asking, what is Swan Lake and what's the history of Swan Lake? So the Army was educating each other, which I thought was amazing. And they were helping each other explain what Swan Lake is and why BTS was inspired by Swan Lake. I also saw people saying, you know what, BTS's Black Swan reminded me that I loved ballet. And I think when this is all over, I'm going to try to get back to a ballet class. And I thought, that's amazing. I was just a ballet teacher watching all these conversations happen. And I thought, wow, BTS, you did a fantastic thing for ballet. Thank you, BTS. That was amazing. And I thought, because of that, I'm going to choreograph for BTS's Black Swan. So over the break, I started taking the deep dive into YouTube, and I started watching every BTS analysis video that I could find. I also watched Black Swan the movie. I watched Matthew Bourne's Swan Lake. We watched Billy Elliot, because at the end there's a Swan Lake, little nod there. And I just really put my hands on everything I could find that was Swan Lake or Black Swan related. After taking the deep dive into YouTube and finding all that I could on BTS's Black Swan and the analysis, I went to old-fashioned vision boards, and I just had to see it in front of me. So I started to color code everything as I started the choreographic process. And on one layer was BTS's lyrics, the translation from Korean into English. I wanted to know what they were saying. On another layer, I started to analyze the hip-hop choreography, BTS's hip-hop choreography, and where we were as the song progressed. And then the third layer was Swan Lake. And so little nods to Swan Lake, and where I would be able to put in and interject Swan Lake amongst the BTS choreography. So I had 3 things that I was trying to bring together as I was attempting to choreograph this new ballet. Then it was time in January, to tell my dancers that I have decided to choreograph to BTS's Black Swan instead of having my ballet studio put on a production of Swan Lake. So in January, I decided to give a PowerPoint presentation to my performing company on why I decided to choreograph to BTS's Black Swan as opposed to putting on a production of Swan Lake. And I talked about the artistry of BTS as a whole and the artistry of Black Swan as a whole. And the first thing that was most important to me is I see BTS as bridging the gap between not only music genres, but also between all art forms. So bridging the gap between visual art and pop music, between performing arts and pop music, between music and all genres of music. So I think that that's incredible that they're doing that, and they keep on doing it over and over and over again. And I think that Black Swan is the pinnacle of that. It's bringing ballet together with pop music, and they did it beautifully. I also thought that it was important for my dancers to know that Black Swan had sparked an interest in ballet during a global pandemic. That ballet often seems unattainable. Ballet sometimes seems it's very difficult to walk into that first ballet class for the first time. I know, I came to dance later in life. And also I teach older dancers also. So I know how hard it is. It's intimidating to come into a ballet class. And because BTS produced Black Swan, people were talking about going back into the ballet studio. And I thought that was incredible, and that's positive. That is a good thing for performing arts, and that's a good thing for ballet as a whole. As I was looking through all of the music videos and looking through all the performances of Black Swan and all the analysis video, I stumbled upon something called Connect BTS, which really just blew my mind. And this is something sponsored by Big Hit and BTS. And it was, from my understanding, brought together in January is when they released it, of 2020. And it was exactly about that, bridging the gap between visual artists and between pop music. Cross-pollination between visual art and pop music, therefore promoting art. And that's everything that I'm about, art supporting art. Here at Crescendo Conservatory, we are a dance and arts collective. In non-pandemic times, I have an art gallery where I support young visual artists. So BTS Connect was everything that I feel like I'm about, and I thought that was amazing, and I thought my dancers needed to know about that we are trying to bridge that gap. I think that maybe because I came to ballet later in life, I don't feel constrained by the traditional definition of ballet. And so I've always choreographed to things that inspire me. So I've choreographed a piece inspired by Dale Chihuly. Dale Chihuly is an American glass artist. I've choreographed 2 dances inspired by René Magritte. René Magritte is a Belgian surrealist. I've choreographed 2 dances inspired by Yuzuru Hanyu, who is a Japanese figure skater, 2-time Olympic gold medalist. And our dances by Yuzuru Hanyu have gotten some international attention. We were very fortunate to be featured in the Japan Times and on the Olympic Channel. And at this time, I felt very much compelled to choreograph to Black Swan because Black Swan inspired me. I am inspired by RM's lyrics. I'm not pop, I'm not rock, I'm not funk, I'm not R&B or hip hop. I will not let someone define who I am as an artist. I will define who I am as an artist. I will define what ballet is, and Black Swan inspires me, so I will choreograph a ballet to Black Swan. I also talk to my dancers about Arts Reimagined, and I really thought that BTS's Black Swan was really along that lines of Art Reimagined. That is what Matthew Bourne did with his Swan Lake. He choreographed a Swan Lake with an entire male corps de ballet. And that ballet has been celebrated all over the world. It's won many awards, huge audiences. I am a big fan of visual artists, and I was driving and I was thinking about Kehinde Wiley. Kehinde Wiley is an American portrait artist. He has painted the official portrait for former President Barack Obama. And what he does is he did classics reimagined. He took the traditional genre of portrait artistry and he turned it around, and he made it relevant for him today. And he is a celebrated portrait artist here in America today. And I thought, that is exactly what BTS did with Black Swan. They took Swan Lake and they reimagined it, and they dared to reimagine it, and they did it beautiful, and it was art. And that music video, it has all elements of art, and it should be celebrated on those same lines. After giving the PowerPoint presentation, we had auditions, and I cast my 47 dancers in different roles. And I started teaching Black Swan, and I taught it in a month. And then it was time to film. I forgot that it was winter in Kansas City, and I had scheduled an outdoor filming in the middle of winter. So we had a couple of cancellations because it was 0 degrees outside, and we had a couple of ice storms. Nevertheless, we persevered, and we were able to film in 2 locations, West Bottoms, which was an outdoor location, and Union Station, which was an indoor location. When we filmed at West Bottoms, we had 60 degree weather in February, which is unheard of for us here in Kansas City. So it was just serendipitous. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful day. It was sunny. The challenge was that it was windy, so it was still cold for the dancers. And the challenge was that they were on point outside. So wind and point work, they had to work really hard to stay vertical. In addition to that, point shoes are very delicate. Point shoes are satin with cardboard with glue, and that's what holds those point shoes together. They are meant to be danced on a specific surface, a marley floor. We were dancing at West Bottoms on top of cobblestone. No one complained. My dancers persevered, and slowly their point shoes started to disintegrate, and they persevered for 3.5 hours, and they danced beautifully, and I was so proud of them. if anything, it was a beautiful day. And if no one watches our music video, I know that at least I was able to create this moment for my dancers. I have many seniors, and this is their last year to dance. And so we created a memory for them. In the middle of this difficult year, we created a memory for them, and that in itself is a gift. Soon after that, we were able to film at Union Station, and I feel so blessed that Union Station gave us permission to film in their beautiful, iconic location. We were so blessed also to have 3.5 hours at Union Station when practically no one was there. It is still a functioning train station, so on occasion in the middle of filming, we had to stop the train. The people came off the train and they walked by. Then we started filming again. But for the most part, we were blessed with having Union Station completely to ourselves. The challenge once again was dancing on point. And so I filmed Black Swan entirely at West Bottoms beginning to end, thinking that I may not get the Union Station location, because if we got to Union Station and it was too slippery and too dangerous for my dancers to dance on point, I knew I wouldn't be able to use that footage. But my dancers put on their point shoes and they put on spray rosin, which made their shoes just a little bit less slippery, and they danced on a tile floor in Union Station, and they persevered. And we created another memory, and some of their parents came out socially distanced with masks on, always safe. Health is the #1 priority at Crescendo Conservatory. But we had that gift of performing. And again, if no one watched us, that's okay, because we created that memory and created that moment in the middle of a global pandemic. And that was beautiful. And it was all inspired by BTS's Black Swan. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about costuming. I designed the costume for our Black Swan, and I didn't want to put us in pancake flat tutus. I didn't want us to look like Swan Lake dancers, because we weren't dancing Swan Lake. We were dancing to BTS's Black Swan. So we have on long romantic tutus, and their leotard is a beautiful black lace leotard that I really modeled after JK, Jungkook's outfit from the performance, the black lace. So for their headpieces, I didn't want the traditional feathers from Swan Lake. So I went to a thrift store and I found this huge piece of fabric that was a whole bunch of sequins, and we cut it up into 50 different pieces, and we created black feathers, sequined black feathers, and each dancer put in their own sequenced button. So it was their own signature on their headpiece. So they were all individual. In addition to that, each dancer wore her own jewelry. And so we each had individual jewelry. And that was another nod to BTS in their costuming. And that the thing I like about BTS is that they're cohesive, but they're individuals. So it's not the same thing over and over again. Even for my corps de ballet, we did this. It's not the same thing over and over again. They're still speaking to their individuality while being a cohesive group. So that's what I tried to replicate in our costuming for our Black Swan performance. Okay, so for the final part of this video, I'm going to be talking about the choreographic process and my artistic intention, and how BTS inspired me, and how I really drew directly from BTS in choreographing this dance. Not only just by their music, but also by their choreography. I have 3 layers of choreography. I have the soloists, I have the Swans, the older dancers, and then I had the corps de ballet, and I had to make sure that all of those worked the same way. So I created those vision boards that were color-coded. They were color-coded also by the lyrics, the translations from Korean into English. I also was inspired and tried to replicate BTS's formations. So when they had a diagonal, I wanted us to have a diagonal. I tried to make sure that for certain formations, I only had 7 dancers representing the 7 members of BTS. So I also tried to replicate their phrasing. So it goes da 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 4 and 5, da 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 8 and 1, and that happens quite a bit during the chorus. So we tried to emphasize the same places in the music, not copying their choreography, but copying their phrasing and their musicality, which of course their musicality is stunning. And they created the music, which that's amazing. Just as a choreographer, just to create the choreography, I find amazing. And I told my sister this when she first showed me BTS's music videos. I thought, I'll just watch them just for the choreography. To understand that they also created the music, wrote the lyrics, are singing it while they're dancing. That's just on another level that I just don't see here. And so that's another reason why I'm a huge BTS fan. Going back to choreography. So I'm going to give you now my artistic intention. I love art, and sometimes I want to look at a piece of art and I want to interpret it for myself. So if you want to interpret my BTS Black Swan Ballet for yourself, then this is the time to shut off the video. Otherwise, if you want to see what my artistic intention is, I'm going to go by somewhat point by point and tell you what my intention is. We have a limited budget, a very limited budget. So I did not have the option to play with shadows. And so the way that I decided to play with shadows is to have one dancer in a veil. And the veil represents different things. It represents the shadows, the darkness, and for right now, the struggles that we have during COVID. And so it starts out with point shoes, and we travel up and we see the dancer in her black veil. And I was trying to replicate that moment in the music video when V is looking down and you see the beautiful ceiling, you see his beautiful face in the beautiful ceiling. I wanted you to see my dancer, beautiful face, beautiful ceiling. After that, it's a direct cut into West Bottoms, and you see 47 dancers, da 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 da, the orchestration, and we have this beautiful ripple. Then we immediately go back to, I'm actually doing homage to two things. I'm doing homage initially to Swan Lake because we have the Swan Lake port-de-bras, but I'm also doing homage to the BTS choreography because we do the wrist circle, the port-de-bras that the boys, port-de-bras carriage of the arms, that BTS did in their choreography, the wrist circle, and the hit on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm doing the opening kind of both at the same time. In BTS's original music video, there is some solo. Jimin had a solo at the beginning, and he does a grand jeté internat, a turning leap, and then he does a fan kick and a port-de-bras, a circle around. If you look at my soloist in the center of the 47 dancers, she is doing the same thing that Jimin is doing at the same time that he would do it in the music. So she does her grand jeté internat, she goes into her fan kick, she does a circle around at the same time that he would do it. It was so exciting for me to be able to interpret their choreography as ballet, which I was like, I'm sure that everyone sees that, and I'm not doing anything unique there. Next in the song is Suga's rap, and at the end of the rap in the choreography, he has a little reach with JK before they go off. And so we couldn't touch because of the global pandemic, but if you look at my soloist in the trio that enters next, we do a little reach. So that's a nod to the choreography there. The next thing that happens is RM's rap. And when RM is rapping, there's a trio, and it is V and Jimin who are behind him. And so I have my dancers dancing in a trio, and in the middle of his rap, RM kind of beats his chest and goes down, so it's 6 and 7. We do the same thing. My dancers go 6 and 7. And as they beret off on Swan Lake, then we do a nod to Jimin, and he does that little circle thing before he drops off. And so the dancers do the same thing. They do the circle thing, and then they go off. In our ballet, for the chorus, I have them come in. I have 7 dancers, which is a nod to the 7 members of BTS. The 7 dancers come in and they're coming forward. And they're doing what I call a petit allegro, a small fast movement. At the end of that small fast movement, they do a double pirouette, which is a double turn, and they drop to the floor. That is exactly what Jimin did in the BTS music video at the same time. He does that lovely turn, turn, drop down. So my dancers do the same thing on point, turn, turn, drop down. So I tried to replicate that phrasing at the same time. After that, my dancers go into a circle. And the circle is reflective of Swan Lake. So opening Act 1 of Swan Lake, the arrival of the swans. So that is from Swan Lake, and they are taking a port-de-bras and they drop down, and they take a port-de-bras and they drop down. And we're doing a little nod to the lyrics there, because that's when in the lyrics it says sinking, we're slowly sinking. So the ladies are going lower and lower. At the same time, I have my soloist in the center, who is dancing, and she does a little nod to V's choreography. This is the only thing that I can incorporate for the hip hop at the same time that V would do it in the music video. After that, in the song is J-Hope's rap. And I watched many of the performances. I was so lucky. There's so much content for BTS, but there was numerous performances of Black Swan, and every time there was a new performance, I kept on thinking, wow, they're not doing the same thing over and over again. They're reimagining it over and over again, which is so crazy artistic and incredible. But for J-Hope's rap, the rest of BTS is going in opposition. They're going in opposition. and then they go off on count 1, they run off on count 1, and they run off on count 3. So for my corps de ballet in the West Bottoms, I have them doing the same thing. They're going in opposition. They're going in opposition, in opposition, opposition. Then they cabriole off on 1, they cabriole off on 3. So we're running off at the same time that BTS run off behind J-Hope. After that, I have my soloists that we go back to Sugar's Rap, and I have my soloists do a little something, and then I do another nod to Swan Lake. So they come forward in a V, a little V. They come forward in a V, and that V is reflective directly of Swan Lake. So they have the Swan Lake port-de-bras, but we're using BTS's phrasing. So we're here in the port-de-bras, bourrée 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's BTS's phrasing. Hold, 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 8 and 1. Up 2, down 3, hold 4, and pull through. So I brought the phrasing from BTS's musicality into choreography from Swan Lake, and we were in a V. So that was kind of exciting for me. Right after that, we go into the Jimin diagonal. And so in the choreography, Jimin comes down the diagonal while the boy is in a diagonal, and Jimin is doing a solo down the diagonal. I do the same thing at the same time in the music. I have my soloists come down. Then we go into the orchestration, and we go into the ending. And in the ending, I take directly from BTS's choreography. So as we come down, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up, and we drop, and then we do the hit at the same time they do, and then we take the complete drop to the floor exactly how they do it. So if you look at BTS's choreography and musicality, we're doing the exact same thing. I'm not even saying replicate. I did copy that directly. And so the dancers do exactly what they're doing at the end of the dance, which I think really is reflective of the artistry of BTS, because what they were doing was ballet. So as a ballet choreographer, it was so easy for me to just take what they did, because that was ballet. And their port-de-bras, I actually had my dancers look at the music video and go, no, I want you ballet dancers to replicate BTS's port-de-bras and their qualitative movement as they hit with the wrists. So we had to learn from them, and that was really cool. At the very end of the dance, after I drop down, then I have my one single dancer, my soloist, in the center with her veil. So the shadow is still on. And then we cut to the door. And what I'm trying to say there is I'm trying to say similar to what BTS said at the end of their music video. JK's sitting on the edge, and he looks back, and he sees his shadow recede. It kind of saying there's hope. We don't have to give in to the shadows. We don't have to give in to the darkness. Maybe COVID at some time will be over. And so that's what I'm trying to say with this video, is my dancer takes off her veil and she drops it. And now she's standing in front of a stage door, and she walks for the stage door, and she takes a hold of that doorknob. And what we're saying is, hopefully COVID will be over sometime soon. And as performing artists, we can get back to the stage. And BTS can get back to the arenas, and they can get back to performing where they belong. All of us artists can get back to work where we belong. And maybe this will just be a memory where we learn from, and we can grow from, and we can create art because we walk through this journey together. So that's it. That's my analysis of my BTS and my artistic intention, my Black Swan, and my artistic intention, my choreographic process. I hope that you enjoyed our ballet. BTS's Black Swan most definitely inspired me and really motivated me to keep going during a very difficult time. So thank you, BTS. And I hope that everyone stays healthy. And I hope that everyone, if you're a dancer, if you're a musician, if you're an artist, that you keep going and you keep pushing forward and you fight against the shadows and you don't die your first death, because this will be behind us and it will be a memory someday. So stay healthy, and thank you for watching.